My story begins 9 months after a job layoff, 6 months after the start of a new career, and 3 months after the birth of my second child, my sweet baby girl. 2014 was an extremely rocky year for me. I left a job of 6 years that I had grown weary of. I was tired of the travel, the corporate politics, and the lack of promotional availability. I went to work for a company that was new and it was innovative and fun to work for, and I just knew that I would be there for a while. Well, a while ended up being a year and a half because this new and innovative company wasn't doing as well as I thought, and my position was placed on the chopping block. January 2014 was the darkest time in my life, so I thought. I was 3 months pregnant and not prepared to be unemployed and looking for work. I went on interview after interview, disguising my stomach so that I would not be overlooked for the positions. I ended up landing a position that allowed me to get back into the hospital setting, but only paid me roughly half of the salary I had made the last year and a half. But I was so thankful and things were looking up. I started my new job on April the 20th, which was also my birthday and Resurrection Sunday that year. So I took that as a sign that things were going to be restored. We would get our finances back. We would have our family back because now I didn't have to travel at all. I would be home every night. And lastly, I would get my peace of mind back. To know me is to know that I'm a thinker by nature. And me being unemployed had caused me to think of every scenario under the sun. We would lose the house, we would lose the cars, lose the retirement, lose the savings. Fortunately, not all of that happened. About a month or so after returning to my new job from maternity leave, my family and I were in the bed enjoying an early Sunday morning. And my right hand casually grazed across my right breast and fell on an area that felt like a lump. Me being a nurse and having had an all clear on my first mammogram the year before, and having just finished breastfeeding, I didn't think much of it, but I continued to monitor the spot. About a week passed and I called my OBGYN to see if I could come in and have him examine it, because it wasn't there on my 6 weeks follow-up appointment just a few weeks earlier, and it didn't seem to be getting any smaller. I went in for a mammogram, then they sent me for an ultrasound, and then the call came from my OBGYN telling me, you need to get to a surgeon. Huh? What? You got to be kidding me, right? Well, the thoughts running through my head, but all I could muster out was, okay. I met with that surgeon and he performed a needle biopsy in his office. After he finished, I asked him, what does your experience tell you that the mass is? And his response was, I'm concerned that it's cancer. Looking at the mass on the ultrasound monitor as he did the biopsy, I was concerned as well. It was ugly and ragged looking and looked angry and mad, and I just didn't have a good feeling about it. Fast forward to September the 26th. My husband comes to my job, and as soon as I saw him, I gripped the wall for support because I just knew what he was about to tell me. I slid to the floor, and he came to pick me up. This was indeed the darkest, lowest point in my life. Out of all the scenarios I had dreamed of, having breast cancer and fighting for my life at 36 with 2 small kids to raise was never a scenario. My turning point in the weekend following that Friday diagnosis occurred after a conversation with my husband. I told him, I know you didn't sign up for this, so it's okay if you want to go. And he looked at me square in the face saying, I did sign up for this. What did you think those vows were for? So after a weekend of crying and giving my husband walking papers, I was ready to fight. Little did I know, I would be fighting more than the cancer that was in my breast. I would literally be fighting for my mind. For me, I couldn't get my mind to understand how a person who did everything that she was supposed to do to not get breast cancer ended up with it anyway. I breastfed both my babies. I exercised regularly. I ate a healthy diet. This was not supposed to happen to me. My cancer treatment seemed to have setback after setback. 2 separate staph infections, one after my lumpectomy, another after my Metaport was placed. I had my initial surgeries at one hospital in the area, but wanted my chemo treatments done at a hospital that was closer to my job. The day I went in to meet my oncologist, I remember sitting in the waiting room fighting back the tears because no one in that waiting room looked like me. I began to get very angry and very upset because I felt like they had lived their lives. But my life was being stolen from me and put on hold, and it wasn't fair. My first chemo treatment, those same feelings and thoughts started in my head again. I wanted to shout, "I don't belong here. I'm not supposed to be here." But before I could make my declaration, one of my best friends for over the last 23 years walked into that waiting room. And I can tell that she was just as upset as I was and thinking the same thoughts that I was. And yet, she was there, voluntarily there. And in that moment, I realized that she wasn't supposed to be there either. As a matter of fact, no one in either of those waiting rooms wanted or deserved to be there. We were all a part of an involuntary draft, and each one of us was fighting for this thing that we call life. My support system and my strong faith and belief in God's word is what got me through. I never spent one infusion session alone, never spent one day in the hospital alone. I had meals prepared for me by family and friends, and they were delivered to us for the first 2 weeks after my surgery. God truly showed me favor through this process because that's exactly what it was, a process. My second act is nothing profound by any standard, but it's my choice to be a source of hope for people who have been dealt similar blows like me. I hope to be a beacon of hope for young cancer patients who don't have the time but make the time for treatment, who don't know what to expect with chemo or surgery, and have families to care for and love on for the next 80 years. My last chemo treatment was March of this year, and bilateral mastectomy was May. So I'm new to this cancer survivor thing, and my new normal, as I call it. But during this time, I have shared my story of what seemed like defeat and the unknown with the world through Facebook. And while I haven't reached global status as of yet, the messages and comments I have received from people that I don't know lets me know that there was a purpose behind my diagnosis. In my second act, I have chosen to appreciate the good and the bad in each day. The sound of my husband and kids laughing and the love and support of family and friends. Right now, I definitely don't have it all figured out, but I'm absolutely positive that my second act will be my best act yet.